Hi, Dr. B here. Welcome to Dr. B Uncensored, where we interview candid thought leaders, entrepreneurs, and founders to tell their story to aspire and inspire others to do the same. Hopefully, you enjoyed this episode. Hi, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Dr. B Show. I'm here with the great Donovan Pyle. Donovan, how are you, sir?
I'm doing great. It's good to see you.
Yeah, same here, man. Same here. I'm so glad that we finally got to make this happen. Let's jump right into it. So tell everyone about yourself.
Well, my name's Donovan Pyle. I'm the CEO and founder of Health Compass Consulting in Orlando, Florida. We are a management consulting firm that helps mid-sized businesses reclaim the $1,000 to $4,000 per employee per year in healthcare overspend. Beyond that, I'm the author of a book called Fixing Healthcare: How Executives Can Save Their People, Their Business, and the Economy. And I'm also a senior advisor at the Validation Institute in Boston. It's good to see you and good to be here.
Oh, I love it. We're gonna take a deeper dive into your book and all that, so I love it. I come from the world of academia, so I'm a big component of education. So you obviously have various certifications and licenses that allows you to do what you do, right? You also got your bachelor's of science from SUNY. SUNY. How does
State
that?
University of New York.
SUNY University. Yeah, yeah. I was like, I was
Yeah.
trying. I got stuck. What does that stand for? So with that being said, how has your degrees and also your licenses, how has that helped you in what you're doing today?
You know what's funny? The employee benefits industry it's a strange animal. Let me just level set for your audience real quick. Um, U.S. employers cover 164 million Americans with healthcare benefits each year. Okay, and and about 81% of businesses rely on a benefits broker to help them understand how to best purchase healthcare for their organization. Okay, so just to take a step back, most CFOs have no technical training in this area. Most HR people have no technical training in this area. So they rely on outside subject matter experts, just like they rely on outside, companies rely on outside attorneys and CPAs and what have you. So this is no different, right? You're relying on an outside expert. What's interesting about the employee benefits industry is that from a legal perspective, all you need, technically speaking, you could be hired to manage a, $50 million healthcare budget, and you don't need any of these certifications or, master's or PhD level designations to do it. In fact, from a legal perspective, all you need to do is be a licensed insurance agent, which in the state of Florida requires about 40 hours of study and a 3-hour test. And for someone like you could probably just take the test and pass it without even studying. So it's really amazing that, essentially you've got, I mean, there are some very knowledgeable benefits professionals out there, of course. But by and large, what we typically see in the market is that most of the brokers that employers work with and rely on for financial advice don't have any of these advanced degrees or designations. And so that's a real challenge, because when we're talking about managing healthcare supply chains, you really need to know what you're talking about. Otherwise, you're more likely to create risk than manage it. So I would say, just to answer your question, these upper level, masters and PhD level designations have certainly given me more confidence as to, the technical side of how healthcare supply chains actually work and how to make them function within the chassis of an employer-sponsored health plan. Um, but at the end of the day, you don't actually need those things to work in this business. So it's a very low entry point for better and worse.
Yeah, I know that. I know that. That's so interesting. I dabbled with insurance, and you're right. You just need your producer license, and you can sell insurance, right? Or you need to take a test, and you can do health, right? So
Well,
the
there's a very good reason for that.
right.
And so I cover this in my book. There's a chapter on the history of the employee benefits industry.
Yeah.
And so just real quick, the brokerage industry was developed purely to serve as distribution for health insurers. They sell health insurance products.
Hmm.
that is a very different value proposition than giving financial advice about what to buy and what not to buy. Those are extremely different value propositions. So just to sell a product, you don't really have to know tons to do that. But to give employers financial advice and serve as a fiduciary to the employer, that's a really different standard of value and requires a lot more expertise.
No, 100%. I love it. I love it, man. So tell me, how'd you? I know you've dabble across corporate America and all that, and then you found Health Compass Consultant. How did that come about?
So I was originally my first career was in the music business, and after our record label went bankrupt in 2011, I was 31 years old, and I said, it's been a great run here. I've had some good successes, working in Manhattan over the past 10 years or so, but I want a completely different life experience. So I said, what's the complete opposite of the music industry? Well, the insurance industry seems like a pretty different experience. And that's what I was really hungry for at the time. I wanted to wake up at 6 a.m. instead of going to bed at 6 a.m. So somehow convinced a multinational insurer to hire me and started off at the bottom, just a typical sales role. Benefits brokers were my customers. And you know, the understanding was that, these employers relied on brokers to help them understand which products to buy or not to buy, right? And so I would go to these open enrollment meetings, and people were routinely frustrated with health insurance. The prices just kept on going up. Executives were frustrated. Employees were frustrated. And I kept on thinking to myself, why aren't these brokers at least recommending some of the strategies and solutions that people like Harris Rosen here in Orlando had pioneered 30 years ago? He saved his hotel chain over $500 million on healthcare, and has an amazing plan for his employees. Why aren't they at least um, recommending some of those strategies and solutions? So long story short, I said, very naively thought, geez, if I just move to the brokerage side of the business, I could probably help a lot of people. I could probably scale these solutions, and I can probably make some money doing it. It turned out I was completely wrong. I got fired for actually advocating too hard on behalf of our customers when I was working at that brokerage firm, and that's when the light bulb went off for me that it's it. And I was told during that conversation that hey, listen, you're being too hard on a one insurance carrier, and they happen to pay us our largest bonus each year, and we don't like that. So you don't belong here. And that's really when I said, oh my God, we have to change the revenue model so that we can actually align with the objectives of employers to help them solve their challenges.
That makes sense. Sometimes, like in someone's darkest hour, you really get to see the light and say, "Hey, oh, the light bulb! Oh my God, that there's a need there, right?" So, in your case, there was that situation, and for me, it was I was trying to dabble across like putting together like a high ticket group coaching program, and I went with one thing, right? But the market told me to train something else out. So that's how it happens sometimes, right? So very interesting.
100%. And so what's funny is that the brokerage firm let me keep one customer who I just brought on like literally 2 weeks before my termination. And they let me keep that client because the CEO happened to be my uncle. So they knew they weren't going to keep the business anyway. So they let me keep that customer. And once I, moved, transitioned from selling products to selling advisory services for a fee, then I could be completely agnostic to the marketplace of strategies and solutions. I didn't have to worry about, that carrier A had this great bonus program and carrier B didn't. I didn't have to care about any of that stuff. So I ended up building a bespoke health plan, partially self-funded health plan for that employer, Champion Solutions Group, and saved them over $3,000 that following year with better coverage. And they were able to exit at a nice multiple the year after that. So it was really a great first case study right out of the gate, and really instructive as to the power of getting unbiased advice on how to manage your second largest expense.
I love it. I love it, man. I'm gonna pivot a little bit the conversation. I would love to have you one tell us about your book, and in your book you talk about like how 25% of employer sponsored healthcare spending is wasted, right? Can you give us where that waste comes from?
Sure. So the most yeah, so just to level set again, employers spend 1.3 trillion dollars on healthcare in 2024. 25% of that was wasted. That's the most conservative estimate. That's $325 billion dollars, or approximately $4,000 per employee per year wasted. Now, why is that happening? Well, there's all kinds of challenges in legacy healthcare supply chains, from not being able to know the price of things, like how much is your company actually paying for hospitalizations, surgeries, labs, imaging, and drugs. There's all kinds of those challenges. But if you look further up the supply chain, where it's brokers that are helping employers navigate these challenges, and so if you don't have if you're not working with a benefits firm who's actually financially aligned to help you um, to solve those challenges, then you've really got the fox guarding the hen house. So essentially, since brokers get paid and work for carriers, health insurers, and pharmacy benefit managers, they make more money when the employer's costs go up, not down. And so the analogy I like to use when describing the ludicrousy of this industry, it's like working with a CPA who gets paid by the IRS. In that scenario, you are guaranteed to pay more in taxes than you should. And when it comes to an employer's healthcare spend, that's essentially the situation most of them are in.
That makes a lot of sense, right? That's a good analogy, right? It's like having a CPA who's like, yeah, basically being paid by IRS. So they're not going to be looking in your best interest, right? Everything will be by the book and probably more. So
A
that's
little
very good.
apathetic. Hey,
Right, right, exactly.
we bet we financially make more money when we're apathetic. When we do less work
Right.
and we get worse results,
Yeah,
we actually make more money.
yeah,
What a
it's true.
great gig.
Exactly, exactly. As a follow-up to that question, though, I also wanted to ask you, what are some blind spots that entrepreneurs uh, may look at or think about to kind of avoid or take a look at.
Wow. Well, for anyone who's, thinking about getting starting a business, the ignorance tax is steep. And so there you will waste so much money every year just trying to learn and figure things out. And so, if any first-time entrepreneur is going to go through that process, and I think I forget who said it first, but essentially, after a while, you kind of like the taste of your own blood, right? You kind of, okay, I'm getting punched in the face, and I kind of like this. I'm kind of you kind of get used to it, and you kind of like it after a while. But what are the challenges? I mean, most companies, most founders, when they start a business, they think that they're going to be just doing, like, they're good at this thing, this deliverable, creating this product or this service. But what they don't realize is that most of your time is going to be spent getting customers, right? So, do you know how to get customers? Do you know how to sell and market your product or service? And I think that's where, a lot of entrepreneurs get surprised. It's like, wow, I spend, 90% of my day not doing client work, but trying to figure out how to get more clients. And so that's something you really got to consider before you take that leap.
Oh man, you hit the nail on the head there. Like I was wondering with my own coaching practice, like, damn man, why is everything so tight? And then I actually did an exercise with one of my coaches. All right, I'm having like 10, 12 meetings a week, right? How many meetings are related directly towards the program? And I, in the beginning, it was terrible. It was like one or two. I'm like, okay, that's why you're not closing, right? That's why you're not, cash flow's tight. Now I can tell you this week, man, between you and I guess publicly now, like this week has been like 5 or 6 meetings have been directly related to the program, right? So or towards,
Awesome.
yeah, yeah. So love that.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Getting that flywheel going is not easy, but once you get it going, you've got that momentum, and that's great. So basically, it's just a learning curve. You just gotta, like anybody, I'm not, you just gotta figure out how to get better
right.
at customer acquisition.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Before we get into your book, I do. I was checking out your LinkedIn and website and all that. So I know you stress a lot about fiduciary based advice, right? So what does that mean in context of healthcare versus the traditional brokerage model?
Yeah, great question. So if you recall, and I think you're old enough to remember this, but in the 401k retirement industry, the fiduciary laws under, it's part of ERISA, which is a federal law going back to 1974. It didn't start getting enforced on the retirement plans till about 2006 or so. And basically, what it forced that industry to do was it forced the financial planners, financial advisors to transition from selling products for a commission to selling advisory services for a fee. And the federal government started enforcing that because they saw that when these financial advisors, get paid based on selling products, well, of course, and some products pay them more than others. Of course, they're going to have a tendency to recommend these, investment funds and vehicles that pay them bigger commissions than others. And so that's a perverse incentive, and you want to avoid that. And so that's why the federal government started enforcing those fiduciary standards in the retirement industry. Now, that's going to happen on the health and welfare side of the business of the employee benefits industry in the next few years, because we're starting to see these lawsuits coming out against Johnson and Johnson, Wells Fargo. There's been several others where employees are actually suing the fiduciaries of the plan, which is typically the CFO, the CHRO, sometimes the CEO, and the broker, and maybe some of the other ancillary vendors like pharmacy benefit managers, for being misaligned with them. And so, and that's creating harm, or at least that's the allegation, to the employees. Now, anecdotally, we know that's exactly true. That is happening, but it just, the attorneys who are spearheading these cases have not figured out how to structure these suits in a way so that they can actually win and prove it. But anecdotally, it's absolutely true that, I mean, in the case of Johnson and Johnson, the employee was taking a drug that cost $10,000 a month total, right? They probably paid their $250 copay or what have you. But they asked the pharmacist one day, and of course, this is all allegedly, but they asked the pharmacist, how much would this drug cost if I just paid cash outside of the plan? The answer wasn't $10,000, it was $78, right? So Johnson and Johnson, the question, well, why is Johnson and Johnson paying $10,000 for a drug that you can buy for $78? That makes no sense. And so that's just one example, but there are hundreds of examples like that where businesses are unknowingly essentially just getting ripped off. I mean, and just to put a pin on this, a lot of executives and employers think that health insurers actually take on risk and pay for all this stuff. I mean, yet they pay for the hospitalizations, the surgeries, the labs, imaging, and drugs. Health insurers take on no risk. Okay, that's not what they do. It's employers that take on the risk, and so that means you want to manage your healthcare supply chain, not delegate it to vendors who actually benefit from rising prices. Um, and so that's really the direction you got to go.
That makes sense as far as a fiduciary, right? Because, like you said, like back in the day, it's very predatory, and then a lot of folks would chase the commission. But now that as opposed to now, that you being fiduciary responsible, then yeah, it's your your objective is hopefully right, always in the best interest of the client, not necessarily chasing for
100%
fifty
of the
five, 60% commission, whatever, whole life return, whatever product. You know what I mean? So.
Yeah, so luckily for employers, so in the six-step healthcare transformation roadmap that I outline in my book, yeah, the first step is critical, and it is to get unbiased advice. Because if you're not getting unbiased advice, you're going to have issues throughout the rest of your supply chain. So we teach employers how to get unbiased advice. Luckily for them, there are a number of fiduciary-based management consulting firms that have appeared in the market over the past 10 years, like mine, and they actually serve as a fiduciary to the employer. So if you go to the Validation Institute's website, you can actually see a list of these fiduciary-based management consulting firms who, again, embrace fiduciary responsibility, serve as a fiduciary to you in their contract. That's like a totally tectonic shift from what the brokerage industry does. The other way to get unbiased advice is to do what people like Mark Cuban have been advocating for across the country, and that is to, if you're a larger organization, if you've got more than a couple thousand employees, start bringing benefits expertise in-house. Start hiring people that have technical expertise in this area so that they actually work for you, right? I mean, you don't have to worry about outside conflicts of interest as much. So those are the two levers to get unbiased advice, and that really unlocks the rest of the roadmap.
Makes total sense, man. So speaking of your book, that segues into the book. Tell us about it.
Okay, so coming out, the book is, again, it's called Fixing Healthcare: How Executives Can Save Their People, Their Business, and the Economy. It's coming out November 12th on Amazon and all the rest of the channels. And really, it's different than most books in this space in that it really focuses on that one element that we've been talking about, and that is how to get, one, educating stakeholders that they're not getting unbiased advice right now. And then two, why it matters and how to get it. And so it's really something way further up the supply chain that most people don't talk about. And yes, it exposes, a lot of the grift that's out there, that the different ways that health insurers compensate brokers to get them to recommend their products over their competitors. Okay. And that can be through retention bonuses, new business bonuses, gifts, vacations, yada, yada. Lots of this is never disclosed. In many cases, it's never disclosed to the employer, even though it's supposed to be under federal law. Most employers have no idea about this backdoor money. And I mean, I live this. Like when I was, towards the tail end of my career at a multinational insurer, I was actually developing the bonus programs for our top producing brokers. I was taking them on all-inclusive luxury vacations around the world. I've seen how that works, and we weren't doing that out of the goodness of our heart. We were doing that because we wanted them to recommend our products over our competitors. We're a publicly traded company. We had, obviously revenue goals to meet, and so we had to figure out ways to meet those goals. So that was just part of the deal. No one even thought twice about it.
I love it, and I'll ask you at the end, like, how could people find out about you in the book? But I have one last question for you. So beyond cost savings, you suggest what I've seen in, like, what I've seen from you, you suggest a lot on strategic benefits management, right? Could be a form of economic empowerment. So what do you mean by that?
Yeah, so right now, you think about it, you've got businesses that spend millions of dollars on healthcare every year, but they don't have any KPIs established or a framework for actually managing their program. Like, how do you know what opportunities there are in your existing program? And if you don't know what opportunities there are, then you're not going to be able to set goals or develop roadmaps to pursue them. And so one of the things that we did at our firm a few years ago was develop what we call the total benefits assessment, which scores businesses in the 7 categories of benefits value. And from there, they can say, okay, we're lagging behind in this key metric. Let's make that a priority for the next 12 to 24 months, and let's build out a roadmap on how to achieve those goals.
I love that. My last question to you is, what final advice would you give to uh, entrepreneurs?
Put your helmet on.
I
It's gonna be a long road.
love it. I
You're
love
gonna have to
it.
work way harder than you think.
Yeah,
And but after a while, you'll grow to love it.
and
But you gotta hang. You,
it's
you
not
gotta
what
be ready.
Instagram it's not what Instagram says, where with the Lamborghini and nice cars and beach. It's a grind. It's a grind. It's for sure a grind.
Yeah, you're gonna have to sacrifice, time with your friends, time with your family. You're gonna have to sacrifice your money and a lot of, unless you're raising capital. But yeah, it's a huge sacrifice on many levels. But it can be hugely rewarding as well. So
Absolutely,
there's
100%.
definitely some upside.
Nah, thank you, man. Where could people find information about you, your services, and or the book coming out in November?
Sure. You can go to fixinghealthcare.com. Again, that's fixinghealthcare.com. Or you can go to my personal website, donovanpyle.com.
Awesome. We'll make sure that you'll send over that info, and we'll add it into the description as well for YouTube. So, Donovan, I enjoyed our conversation a lot. You and I, we could talk for days, but unfortunately, I like to keep it to 30 minutes or less.
Very
So,
good. Very
yeah,
good.
thank you, man. Thank you so much for being on my show.
Thanks for having me. Take care now.
Thanks, man. Donovan Pyle, everybody. Hi, everybody. Dr. B here, Dr. B Uncensored. Hopefully, you enjoyed that episode. Remember, you are one big deal away. Please like, comment, and subscribe to the YouTube channel now. Take care.